Okay, here we go. Today is Thursday, September 14th. We are here on the Nick Leach Show. Again, I am Nick Leach. Along with me is Steady Eddie. And Steady, I would like to wish you a very happy, what is it, male pattern baldness day? Or
No, come on.
good-looking male?
That's
I don't know, you're going to have to.
disrespectful.
I already forgot it.
Disrespectful. Today is National Bald is Beautiful Day. God, and you're talking about male pattern baldness.
Bald is beautiful.
That was disrespectful. That was so disrespectful.
Well, I mean, I mean, in my defense, you have worn a hat on every single episode that we've done, or every show that we've done. So, I mean, you're the one that's trying to hide the fact that you are bald. Just let it out and just be beautiful.
I also didn't shave my head this morning, so no thanks.
Every time I think about someone going bald, I always think back to the story of where you pretty much scalped yourself, and that's still just, it haunts me to this day of the thought like even now that mentioning it made my skin crawl.
Yeah, no, that was just a one-time thing. That was just me trying rush into work. It was bad. That was bad.
Can we at least declare that the day after you were not beautiful because of that?
No, even better. Scar tissue.
Chicks dig the scars.
I got a lot of them.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think we segue this perfectly kind of into our first topic today. We did talk about, scars, I guess is the related term there, talking about Aaron Rodgers. We were recording right in the middle of that Monday night game when he went down and, ultimately tore his Achilles. At the time, we had no idea exactly what was happening. People were speculating it's a broken foot, it's a torn Achilles. We had no idea, so we didn't really comment on it too much. I just, for whatever reason, I didn't think it would be anything serious. Because you and I even kind of watched the video here while we were recording, and it didn't look that bad at the time. And to be honest, watching it a few times over after, I couldn't notice anything. I thought maybe he just sprained his foot. I thought his foot got hyperextended to some degree to he couldn't put a lot of pressure on it. But then ultimately they kind of got they did the zoom in of his calf, and you could see that popping motion that we've seen numerous times and several athletes of that thing tearing or rupturing. So, I mean, just an absolutely brutal start to the season if you are a New York Jets fan. I mean, probably, honestly, I'd say outside of the Lions, I would say the Jets probably had the biggest hype around them as far as Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay, coming there to be the starting quarterback. And then in the matter of 4 offensive plays, the dreams, hopes, and thoughts of going to the Super Bowl were just up in flames. And honestly, I felt awful for Jets fans. And I know a lot of people don't feel bad for New York fans. If it was the Giants, I would feel, I guess, less pain about, because I've seen them win Super Bowls, and I haven't ever seen the Jets win anything besides make it to the AFC Championship game. But my heart just felt ripped out for a lot of Jets fans, because I kind of felt like, Jets fans and Lions fans were on this trip together of actually having high expectations going into the season, and then boom, just done and over just like that.
I still think I'm not throwing them out. I mean, they had the biggest win of the week one, Lions included. This was the biggest win for week one. They beat a division opponent who was projected to compete with them in the division, and you did it without the starting quarterback that you just signed. I mean, it definitely changes probably expectations for Jets fans, but that I don't know that I'm not writing them off. I mean, that was the best defense I think we've seen all week.
Besides Dallas.
I would say this was even more impressive.
Oh, I don't know. Dallas's defense was...
Yeah, but they weren't going against Josh Allen.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair argument. I respect it, but I personally, I would still say that the Giants' defense was just better. I mean, they didn't allow New York to score any points. So, and I scored, I think 2 defensive touchdowns and one special teams. So I mean, it's tomato at the same point. It was great. 2 good defensive games, but regardless, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. The Jets long term, that defense is better than Dallas's defense, and Dallas will figure out a way not to make the playoffs too. So, and they have all their players healthy right now. But yeah, sucks for Aaron Rodgers. It would have been interesting to see how that offense works. I mean, that offense still looked decent. I mean, they got so many young pieces on that team. Brees Hall, who looked great on the limited snaps that he was on, and it sucks for Garrett Wilson probably the most, especially if you're a fantasy owner of him. It definitely changes.
Did you
He's not worth a first or a second round pick with Zach Wilson throwing him the ball.
Did you see the quote that Aaron Rodgers said to him at halftime too? Like,
Sorry
I think,
or something.
well, yeah, Barstool put it out there and it said enough to make a grown man cry. And I thought it was a perfect caption because he said Garrett Wilson saw him at halftime and went over to him, and Aaron Rodgers just said, like, sorry, kid. That's all he said to him. I was like, damn, that hit you in the heartstring. To me, it was like I visualized the scene out of like a 19 maybe an old Western movie of some gunslinger that, you know, had a young kid looking up to him, and the young kid was watching him in a duel for the first time, and the guy lost and got shot, and he was bleeding out and dying, and then that's all the only thing that he could come out of his mouth and say, and then boom, he was dead, and you know, the young kid watched his hero die right in front of him. That's exactly how I interpreted that quote, and I still continue to visualize it that way.
Oh, for the receivers, especially on that team, I think it hurts. Got to be the worst. I mean, you expected things to change from last year, and they brought in Alan Lazard, brought in Randall Cobb, and it's like Randall Cobb would not be there if Aaron Rodgers wasn't there.
Facts.
And now this guy's got to play a whole year without him. I still think the Jets have a good chance to win that division. You beat the Bills. I mean, as long as you just don't go on a slide. But what they did defensively, I think that team's going to be in a lot of games. They manhandled the Bills' offensive line. Didn't let Josh Allen do anything. The guy was just having to throw prayers up, and it was getting intercepted left and right, which is probably another story for another day. But still, I thought that game was pretty impressive that they were able to win that game. They probably should have not gone to overtime in that, but that's neither here nor there. But they did end up winning the game, and I thought the game ended up being interesting. I think a lot of people wrote it off pretty quickly, or at least maybe watched the first half and then said, "It's probably not going to look good for the Jets in the second half." And I thought the second half looked better for the Jets, and they played really well. And the story, of course, from Hard Knocks, the last guy to make the team for the Jets, returning the game-winning kick. A lot of people complaining about the trip on the kick return. It's annoying. Bad calls happen throughout the game. Just make a tackle. I mean, maybe if the punter wanted to actually do something in that situation, things would have been a little different. All you got to do is get in front of the guy, slow him down a little bit. And we're talking about Zach Wilson having to make some plays, or the rushing attack make some plays to score a touchdown. And maybe you get something lucky on your defensive side. So I've still not given up on the Jets. I still think the team's good enough around the quarterback position. The other thing I would note, though, Zach Wilson's got to be eligible for comeback player of the year, right?
I mean,
what exactly what's the parameters for comeback player of the year?
I mean, it's usually somebody that comes back from like a nasty injury. So, I mean, already next year I'm taking Aaron Rodgers to be comeback player of the year, but he could win most improved. Like that's what Geno Smith won last year. I'm
right, but
sure.
Geno Smith also started week 1. So like a guy that wasn't supposed to play comes in, comeback player. I don't know.
I don't think he'd be comeback player of the year because he wasn't. I don't think he was. Usually it's kind of out, like an injury award, I would say. So I don't think that he would be. He would for sure be up for most improved if something crazy does happen.
Well, that award's up for grabs. I mean, I don't think just putting DeMar Hamlin on a field gets him the award, and he didn't play. So it's an open award. That's why I was just bringing it up, because it makes it an interesting story if Zach Wilson leads the Jets to winning that division.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and kind of look at some of the throw, and I don't think he had. I don't think he really. They even allowed him to really throw the ball downfield that much. I mean, he did have an interception in that game as well too. So it'll be interesting to see like how they actually script out the game plan for him being involved. But I've got about just as much confidence I have in Zach Wilson as I do in Trey Lance being the starter in San Francisco still, which I know he's not even in San Francisco still. So that's where my confidence level is with Zach Wilson.
It's got to be better than that. I mean, he still did enough to allow that team to win the game there. And he wasn't. There's no way in hell he ever thought he was supposed to fucking play.
No, the memes, the social media that was going around when he was being put into the game, there were some quality memes out there that I've seen as well, and that. I always forget how good Twitter and the internet can be just during football season. Doesn't matter what the situation presents. I mean, yeah, it absolutely sucked that Aaron Rodgers is out for the season. I was actually looking forward to watching him now that he, the bad man wasn't in Green Bay anymore. I was actually excited to see what he could do with the Jets. Lions didn't have to worry about him until, if for whatever reason you did get a Super Bowl matchup. But, you just totally forget that everybody's watching all these games at the same time too, and just a lot of the same thoughts and same comedy that's in the back of your head. You're like, God damn, I love the internet when big moments happen.
Yeah, crazy. He never even recorded a passing yard 4 plays in, and that happens. Like, it would have been a little bit of a different story too. The game's fourth quarter or something, but this happened right off the bat. The biggest moment for him as a Jet so far is running out the American flag to start the night.
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of upset with us recording when that happened because that moment looked absolutely electric, especially it being on the anniversary of September 11th in New York. I was kind of kicking myself that we didn't get recording quicker. I mean, I am to blame for that, but I mean, damn, what a moment. And again, people on social media, they've already gone out and made Aaron Rodgers season highlights, and that's been the only highlight, and that's it. So I guess the conversation can kind of switch gears to, is that it for Aaron Rodgers? I mean, we already have the answer of what he's going to try to do. So he is going to try to come back and play, which I was expecting that the whole time. There's no way that a Hall of Fame quarterback like him that switched teams in the offseason, he had 2 years on his deal. I didn't think there's any chance that this would be the last chance we ever saw of him. He put out a long post saying thank you to everyone that has sent me messages. He's heartbroken and moving through all the emotions, but deeply touched and humbled by the support and love. Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I begin the healing process today. And then he put this quote in here: the night is darkest before the dawn, and I shall rise yet again. Isn't that a quote from Batman? I'm pretty sure that was like a Harvey. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 95% sure that was a Harvey Dent quote. And I don't know if it was before he turned to Two-Face or after, but I'm 95% sure. At least the first part. I know that the night is darkest before the dawn is for sure in that movie. I just don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, right? Because it's like Dark Knight Rises.
I've never seen the movie. I have no idea.
You've never seen... Wait, hang on, time.
I'm not a Marvel guy. I don't watch Marvel.
Batman, it's not Marvel.
It's a superhero.
Wait, you... I might have to end this show right here, right now.
I don't watch superheroes. No.
You've never seen any of the trilogies with... Well, I mean, Batman, he's not really a superhero. He's just a billionaire that has a lot of money and technology.
Yeah, never seen it.
None of them, like all three.
No Batman.
I mean, The Dark Knight might be like the greatest cinematic movie of all time. And
that's probably not true.
It is. You're talking about
probably higher on the list.
Batman's more realistic than Avatar would ever be.
Well, I don't know about that.
You're never going to be around to see Avatar. I can tell you that right now. But
that's okay. Find me a Batman right now. Then
I guarantee you, I could go find you a Batman hanging out on Las Vegas Boulevard right now.
The closest thing we have to Batman is Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. That's it. That's the closest thing we have to Batman, and neither of those guys are fucking Batman.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. But the fact that you wouldn't even have you even thought about watching them, or you don't care whatsoever?
I don't have any interest.
That is, you might be the first person I've ever heard say that, like that they don't enjoy superhero movies.
No, I've seen very few. I mean, as a kid, probably seen some of the older Spider-Man ones. Seen the first Guardians of the Galaxy. That might be about it.
I am in just disbelief right now. Just when you think you know a guy.
Star Wars is so much better than any Marvel movie.
I'm not making the argument that it's not. I enjoy Star Wars just as much, but the fact that you're just not even giving the Dark Knight or that Batman trilogy with Christian Bale a fighting chance is just, it's got me beside myself.
No, I'm good.
I mean, like, Heath Ledger's acting in that was arguably the best acting performance I've ever seen.
Nah, I have no interest in seeing that.
Oh my God. I'm all right. I guess we'll get back to sports here because I might lose it. I don't know what to say. Anyways, that quote definitely from that movie at some level. So I always thought he was going to come back. I still think he can come back and be a great quarterback. Obviously, at his age, he'll be 40 in December. But you know, I don't think it's gonna. I think the technology is out there as far as, you know, injuries. I get the human body aspect of it, but I think he can come back and play to that MVP caliber level that we've seen of him in the past. So at least Jets fans have that solace in this whole thing that, you know, he could have easily made the decision like, hey, this is it. I'm not even going to try to rehab or recover from it. So I think once you start that process, you're going to go out and try to return to the NFL. I don't know if you feel that same way, but that's how I look at it.
Yeah, but I think by the time the Super Bowl comes around, and it's been 5-6 months, however long that is from now, that it's been that long, and he kind of knows where he's at in his rehab. And as long as his body is, I mean, the age is the biggest concern. He plays quarterback too, so it's not like a running back or a wide receiver who has all these routes to run or major cuts, and he's never been he can scramble. We've seen him do it, but he's not like a run first guy. That's like one of those last resort kind of things. Yeah, as long as his body's fine, and so I think we'll know right around the Super Bowl if they're going to be expecting him back, because I also don't think he's going to be the guy that leaves them out to dry as free agency and the draft prep and everything starts coming around to say, hey, he's going to decide one way or another to let the team know. So for sure, by the time the draft happens, that we'll know if Aaron Rodgers is expected to play or not.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's kind of a great.
He's also not in Green Bay anymore. If he was in Green Bay, I think maybe a little bit of a different story.
Correct. Yeah, I think the switching of teams has a big deal to it. It's, you know, it easily could have been, you know, it had been passing of the torch to Jordan Love if for whatever reason he was there this year. But the fact that he, you know, came into a new team, that's just not, because that's honestly like that's how you'll remember him as. I wouldn't remember him as, the Green Bay quarterback. I mean, yeah, obviously a lot of those memories are there, but you'll always remember, how did Aaron Rodgers' career end? Oh yeah, fourth snap of his, first game with the New York Jets, like just an ugly end to her career. So, I did not expect him to just be like, I'm up and done then. But I mean, it could change, like you said, could see where the body's at, and he might make a different decision 6 months from now. So, I mean, look, I guess luckily for him, you could say too, it wasn't like in the middle of the season or at the end of the season to where, that timetable gets shrunk a lot. He's got essentially a full year to get ready. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, I think, that time frame, that's another part of it too, of course, because week one injury, you definitely have, and being the position he plays and the age he plays, he doesn't have to be as mobile as some of the other guys that have had Achilles injuries to get it back on the field. So, I expect him to play next year. Well, I guess we'll just see how his rehab goes throughout this year. I'm sure there will be plenty of reports. It'll be talked about all year, especially if the Jets quarterback play is bad, Zach Wilson or whoever they end up getting. But yeah, I expect him to be back on the field for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of fields too, here we can kind of shift gears here and discuss. The NLFPA came out and they want they're making the call for grass fields to be instituted at all 32 NFL stadiums. I'm
Did
going
they say
to
that?
sit.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, it happened today. They passed it. I think their board passed it this afternoon, as we're recording here on Wednesday. And for me, it's regardless of what you say, the Aaron Rodgers injury, I think, happens regardless of what, field or turf you're on. I could be wrong in that, but he had Leonard Floyd on his back, and the pressure from Leonard Floyd and him implanting, his leg into the ground is kind of what caused that Achilles to pop. So that was more of a freak accident than I would blame on the turf. But, after hearing a lot of talk over the last 2 days, is I didn't realize that anytime these major soccer programs, like I think, who is it, Manchester United, and somebody came and played at the Big House a couple years ago, that they get actually like manicured grass turf that gets shipped into a lot of these arenas, and even
I don't think that happened there.
This is kind of just messenger. I didn't really dive too deep into it, but from the soccer world, from my understanding, is that all those fields overseas are like well manicured fields that are all grass turf that are treated, obviously way more expensive for owners to have at their stadiums, but it's what the NFL is pushing for to mitigate a lot of these injuries that we've seen. I'd say probably more common so over the last 10 years or so, with ACLs and Achilles kind of popping left and right.
I think it's even safer for head injuries, like Tua's snapping your head back on a grass field compared to a turf field. Yeah, it's definitely safer for grass. I mean, across the board. There's plenty of studies out there. Yes, soccer overseas does not play on turf. I think they do play on turf when they play at an NFL stadium that has turf. I don't think they're shipping in grass for most of those games. Some stadiums may be different. There's also, like, people out there listening, go find, I can't remember what stadiums they are, but I'm pretty sure almost any of the big ones like Wembley or anybody else in the UK will have a video out there of how they keep this grass. Like, they put, like, there's big storage units underground. How they water them outside of just the playing surface, like on the field itself. Like, underground, they're watering things, easily replaceable. They have multiple fields at a time being grown and ready to kind of go out there when they need them. If they have like back-to-back games, so Green Bay, I'm pretty positive they have grass. And so, like, say them, for example, they have a Monday night game and they also play at home on Sunday. They could change out the complete field for something else that's underground, that's been growing and waiting and just come up. So, yeah, it's definitely possible. Yeah, it's probably more expensive, but at the same time, for these owners, you just lost your $40 million quarterback.
Yeah.
Because of this. So,
well, and what does that equate to down the road too? It's like ticket sales, which turns into concession sales, merchandise sales. It turns in. I mean, think of how many less, obviously. I mean, I know there was a lot of Aaron Rodgers jerseys sold in the off season, but think of how many would have been sold if they're on a huge run during the season. Yeah. No one's going to buy an Aaron Rodgers jersey now because they're not even sure if he's going to be back next year to play. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it just trickles down the line of where you're going to get hit versus, again, I don't think a grass field would have saved his injury from happening, but, theoretically, we could sit there and say is like, that could have prevented, that cost saving there to make more on the top, throughout the rest of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how the owners respond. Typically you don't see the owners abiding by exactly what the players want, but the players union is there for a reason. And I know there's been a lot of stadiums that have already kind of accommodated at least a safer turf versus, I believe, AstroTurf or, some of the different turf surfaces that we've seen in the past. I know some. I think the Lions switched their turf this offseason. I'm pretty sure. It will be interesting to see if they switch to actual grass fields here in the future. So
I find that interesting because there's a lot of stadiums that are indoors too. That changes it a little bit too compared to we're talking about soccer overseas where all those are outdoors. How much that plays a factor into what the owners end up doing. I personally would like to see everybody on grass fields too. I think it's the safest option for especially leg injuries, knees, and ankles. But I think it also helps for the impact the players go week to week from hitting a more of a concrete surface than the give of a grass field.
Yeah, and I think football players look like more like football players. Get some grass stains in those jerseys.
Yep.
If it gets some rain out there, get some mud. So it'll take you back to being a child when you played pickup football with your boys or even little league football. So
yeah, I can't remember what game it was, but there was a shot from LA's got turf, so I'm trying to remember where it was. Maybe it was Washington and Arizona's field. Yeah, Arizona's got grass. Or in Washington. They were actually in Washington. But Washington's got grass.
Yep.
And there was a view from behind like the end zone. It was a red zone opportunity. I can't remember what team it was, but the number on his back was all white, and you're facing like the linebacker, and his whole back was just like yellow or something. Like you could tell it was just paint from the like sidelines or midfield or wherever it was on the field, but that's what you think of when you think of football players, not Daniel Jones with turf on his face from getting sacked all the time.
Yeah,
which was another view that we saw a lot of on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, well, and then too that there's that famous clip of Tom Brady, or not Tom Brady. Jesus Christ, I just convinced him with Tim Tebow.
Dude, you screwed that whole sentence up.
Yeah.
You said just convince Tom Brady with Tim Tebow.
My brain has just been in a pretzel all day long. So Tim Tebow, there's the famous video of him at Florida where I forgot, maybe they were playing like Texas A&M or somebody that had a red logo on the field, and he got tackled through it, and the paint from it essentially just stayed all over his jersey and all down his arm.
I think it's the Alabama game.
Yeah, it could have been the Alabama game too. So
I think it's the Alabama game.
Yeah, just an unreal visual. It looked like he murdered someone out there when he did have his teammate Aaron Hernandez out there. So
I dig it. I think grass.
Wait, you dig Aaron Hernandez being out there with him, or you dig
the view of Tim Tebow?
Oh, okay, all right. I just had to clarify that here for the show. So
no, I know what I'm saying. I don't know if you know what you're saying, but I know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I like grass. Grass is fun. But I don't think we have. Did you have anything else more that you want to say on the Aaron Rodgers situation and or no, the grass turf?
One last guy. I would not count the Jets out yet.
I'm counting them out. I don't think I think when we did our preview, I didn't have them making the playoffs to begin with. So
I had them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think that's unrealistic, but I based on how they looked, and they've already beaten the Bills once. I mean, that's a huge win for them in division. Like they couldn't have beat anybody better week one.
Yeah.
So I would just let's see what Zach Wilson looks like with the week of preparation when he's actually knows he's playing. Before we completely count them out. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't looked good in the past, but I would say, maybe it's. I mean, the Bills maybe took a step back. Maybe Josh Allen is just a turnover machine, and maybe it's the Dolphins division this year too.
Did you see his post game press conference?
Josh
Allen? Yeah.
No, I did not.
Just super defeated. They asked. I think they just generally asked him a question about his performance, and he sat there, and to me it reminded me of someone of when you were taking a test back in the day that you just weren't prepared for, and he was sitting there, he thought about it, and he just lets out a same shit, different day. Just same shit, different day. Just nothing ever changes, and more or less, I think they're asking him about his turnovers, and just The man looked absolutely defeated.
His stats are terrible right now. I mean, last year he was not great with not turning the ball over. And week one, you're throwing 3 interceptions in a game that you probably should have kicked the shit out of the Jets. And it could get interesting in Buffalo if his turnovers continue. That he just may be the guy that just Phillip Rivers in a different uniform.
Damn, that's a bold comparison, but numbers don't lie.
At least in the winning aspect, I don't think you can win with a guy that does that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Chargers proved it for years that you, in fact, cannot. So,
and we'll see. We'll see. And we've already seen Diggs in the past go a little crazy.
He was trying to leave last offseason.
So.
He for sure wanted to leave it at the end of last season. So
if things start going sideways, we could see that explode pretty quickly in Buffalo. And things could change very fast there. So
yeah, which would be crazy. So all right, we're gonna jump into kind of a segment we're gonna do here on Wednesdays. Kind of light topics here as we're recording here on a Wednesday night, but. We're going to do a primetime preview, so we're not going to preview every single NFL game throughout the week. We'll talk about all the primetime games that are on the schedule for that week, unless they're just putrid. But this week and next week are going to be a bit unique because we've got 2 Monday night games going on. And before we even preview the game, Steady, I know you've got some pretty powerful things to say about that.
The scheduling of it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand why you're doing them both at the same time. That does not make sense to me. An hour after each other, whatever. It's the same thing. You could easily plan this. Okay, let me look at the schedule real quick. You got teams playing at home on the Rams 49ers. Boom. Put that at 10 o'clock on Monday night instead of the Browns Steelers at 8:15.
Yeah, 2 Eastern time zone teams going, an
makes
hour
no
apart.
sense. Try to plan it to where they at least start after each other. Like, okay, I get if one game, so you start the first one at 7 and the next one at 10, and I get if the first one extends into that, but you at least tried to schedule it 3 hours apart. They did not do any effort. So people are it makes no sense. I get it's all ESPN and ABC. It's all the same company. But I don't get why they would do 2 at the same time in primetime games. That makes no sense to me. They're doing this both this week and next week.
Yeah, I just checked this, and easily you have the Rams and Bengals, and all 4 games that they're doing too. Same thing is Eastern time zone. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure in years past when they have done it, they've done a game at maybe like 6:40 or even 7 o'clock, and they don't start the other one until maybe even 9 or
right.
But I mean, even if you gave like a first half, like you're going to be, the first game's going to be in the second quarter when this first game kicks off. So
likely, yes.
I don't know and you would think, right? People are going to gravitate to one game over the other. It's not, with streaming services, you can kind of pick and choose which one you're going to watch, but
this one's clear. I mean, the Saints and Panthers kick off first, and then you got the Browns and Steelers. Browns and Steelers is going to way outperform Panthers and Saints.
Yeah,
it's not even going to be close.
Agreed.
People are just going to turn it off. So ESPN is going to be dead. Everybody's going to be watching ABC.
Yeah, it baffled me when you mentioned that. I think last week or the week before that they're doing this. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out.
And I kind of like the 2 games Monday night. I think that adds another dynamic, but I just think the scheduling of it's terrible.
Yeah, someone needs to get fired for that one.
Yeah, even if you just move the Browns game back an hour and a half, like 9:45.
Flex it. Let's get an early game flex at the beginning of the year. Actually, for both of them, let's just flex both of these. You don't even have to change the teams; just move them back. It's a simple.
They should almost Sunday night or Monday, at least Sunday night, because it's easy. It's the same day, or at least planning the same day for travel purposes for the teams. Sunday night football should always be flexed. Always. It doesn't need to be planned out. I get there's fans that want to travel to games, and that's been the argument for. I've seen Lions people talk about it for late in the season because there's a game they don't know when it's going to be played. But who cares? If your team's worthy of being in the primetime spot at that time of the year, do it. Preseason injuries can happen and it can affect week 1. to be able to move a game from 1 o'clock to 8:30. Who cares? I feel like it's not that difficult for these TV providers to do that. I guess that maybe that's the issue, is it's CBS, Fox versus NBC for that issue,
traveling
or ABC and stuff like that. But
that makes sense.
Even if you make it Wednesday the week before or week of, so you still have 4 days before the game, I feel like they can easily do that.
I'm all for it. I love that idea. Let's just flex. I mean, people love games late in the season. That's one of the best things to look forward to, is like who's getting flexed, when and where, and they do that the week of. So,
right?
Or no, it might be a week in advance, but still, regardless, it's.
I think they come. I mean, I think it comes out that as Sunday games are being played for the next week. So, cool. Then do that. Then I don't care, but at least they have the flexibility.
You know what they should do? Just flex every game. Just go into the week not knowing when they're going to start. And, I mean, you could do a Monday special, a Monday show about the starting times of games each week. That would be, I'd sign up for that.
Yeah. Hey, ESPN, you want people to watch you during the week? There you go.
Yeah. What if you did it too? Like, obviously you know your opponents that you're playing every single year, but what if you didn't know until the week of, like, where you're traveling? I know you got to set up travel plans, but that would make for a great case as well.
That would be crazy. You have no idea. Like, you just know your opponents for the year, and you don't know when you're going to play them.
Right. Yeah. That'd be
nuts.
Bring it. I want it. Got to have it. All right. So I guess, back to this primetime preview. We're going to run through. We're going to start. We'll do chronological order like we have been. And then after we go through all the primetime games, because we're Detroit fans, we're going to talk Detroit football every single week, regardless of, who's listening or not. And then we'll probably pick one more additional game each. So we'll get a good chunk of these games covered, but it's not going to be the full slate. We just too much time, too much editing that has to be done here on the podcast for us to do that. We get more listeners, more followers, and this becomes a business venture that we can travel on. Then we can preview every game. So we're leaving it up to everybody that's listening to this.
So here's the plug: like, subscribe, and share. Wait, what the fuck is it? Like, subscribe. There's a third one, isn't there? Share. It's not share. Like, subscribe, comment. Like,
comment.
Subscribe, comment.
Yeah, there you go.
I had it good last week. I just forgot what the third one was. Yeah, like, subscribe, comment, and share. Fuck it, share too.
Yeah,
That's
share it too.
The best one too.
Yeah, share is good. Get it out to all your friends out there. So we need all the likes and shares and follows too. Follows on social media. We need that. So we're gonna plug ourselves as much as possible here these first couple weeks. So got to get it known to everybody out there. So all right. First game, Thursday Night Football. This will be, coming on as people are listening to later that day. So, Vikings at the Eagles. Steady, do you know the line of this game before I even say it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it also.
Oh, okay, damn.
You're not going to be able to guess me on get me on any of this.
Yeah. 6 points, for anyone that doesn't know what it is. It's
Philly. Yeah, Philly.
Yeah, it's in Philly because of that. Vikings did lose, and the Eagles did win last week. So I actually look for this to be I think this was a matchup that a lot of people thought we were potentially going to get in the NFC Championship last year, and that didn't happen because Kirk Cousins and the Vikings lost to Daniel Jones and the Giants in the wild card weekend. So a little bit robbed of that matchup. So we're gonna get it here in week 2. So I think you could argue you got two of the best wide receivers going at it this week in Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown. So that'll be fun to watch. And good. It's hard to call them second-tier receivers because I really don't think Devonta Smith is a second-tier receiver. But, I would call A.J. Brown the number one receiver on that team. It's another tomato. But I think, Jordan Addison for the Vikings looked awesome in week 1 for them. So I think it's good. I don't think we had the best games in the world last week as far as point scoring go. I think there's a chance this one can get a bit out of control.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles' offense looks better too. Yeah, I think they both look somewhat better than what they looked last week. At least I hope that across the board, I think offenses are going to figure out how to do things. Like, it just seemed weird that I think it could be a preseason thing that the guys just haven't been on a field and they're going full speed and they're just not ready for what defenses are throwing at them. Because you pretty much saw it across the board outside the Chargers and Dolphins game last week. So I do think we'd see some points. 49's the over under. That's close. I think Philly takes care of this game. I think Jalen Hurts looks much better and more comfortable than what he did last week. And I think for that reason, they're going to take care of business. I expect them to cover and win by a touchdown. But I still think the Vikings are going to be able to put up points. The problem is the Vikings defense, you can tell, hasn't improved. I mean, Baker Mayfield did whatever he wanted to do. I mean, he had some quotes come out in the past couple of days too that he knew almost exactly what was going to happen all the time. So, it didn't. I just don't trust the Vikings defense at all to be able to keep them in this game. So I mean, I'll final score 31-24.
31-24 Eagles.
Philly. Yep.
Okay,
which is the over too.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I mean, very close to that. I was thinking like 38-28. I think the Eagles' offense do figure it out this week, and part of the Eagles' thoughts moving forward is to get Dallas Goedert and DeAndre Swift more involved. Which, I mean, they barely even touched the ball last week. I think Dallas Goedert, speaking from a fantasy standpoint, had 0 points. So yeah, I mean, definitely got to get those two guys involved, especially the playmaking abilities that they both have. So
Swift will too, because Kenneth Gainwell is already ruled out as we're recording Wednesday night.
Okay, there you go.
So I would expect Swift to touch the ball more, because Gainwell did have a lot of touches last week.
Yeah, and leading into this too, we've got a top 10 matchup as far as punters go, as far as average goes. So I'm all into the punting numbers going into the season. So Vikings Ryan White is sixth in stats right now as far as average punts go. So look for some field position to get flipped this week.
He might be punting a decent amount.
All right. Nothing. I mean, that was a very good rundown, Steady, if I can say so myself, of that game.
Quick and easy.
Yeah, I'm proud of us for that one. No hesitation whatsoever. All right, the second game that we're going to discuss is the Sunday night football game between the Dolphins and the Patriots. Miami's favorite by 3 in New England. Which we talked about New England scoreboard on this podcast, didn't we? Or you wanted to make mention of it?
I think we did. I don't know. I've talked about it before. I mean, it's the greatest scoreboard. I think we talked about it because I think I said every stadium should have a scoreboard that goes all the way around, and we stared talking about that.
Yeah, we did.
If we didn't talk about it on the podcast, we talked about it beforehand, and people now know my stance. So.
Yeah, great scoreboard there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the scoreboard on Sunday Night Football this week. This is, you've got what looked like a very solid New England defense in week 1 against Philly, going up against probably the highest powered and arguably the best offense in football based on, just week 1 alone. They are the best offense in football if we are just basing off that first week. So I do look for the Patriots and Bill Belichick, being who he is, to slow their defense down, or their offense down a little bit. Getting to Tua is going to be an important piece for that offense, or for that defense in New England. I can say you can try to contain Tyreek Hill all you want, but I just don't think it's possible for any defense to do.
No, I think this is another high scoring game. 46.5 is the over under. Miami -3. Like both of those. Based on what Mac Jones did last week, I think he's going to be able to throw the ball around. I mean, Philly's defense is not somebody that you should just be able to walk all over. I mean, he threw for over 300 yards against them. I get they were coming back from a lot. They could be in this game too, based off what the Dolphins did last week. So I expect this game to be in the 20s for each team, pushing that over. Miami -3, you can see how Vegas feels about the Patriots as a whole, that they can compete with Miami after Miami just did fireworks last week all over the Chargers. Miami is traveling again. I mean, they were in LA last week. Now they're going all the way to Boston. It's a lot of travel. in a week. So that we'll see if that plays any factor too. I'm picking the Patriots to win this game.
Ooh.
I'm going 25-22. Weird score, but that's how I want to do it. So I don't care. But yeah, I think the Patriots. I liked what Mac Jones did last week. I thought he could have been. That's probably the most surprising quarterback play last week that was shown. You guys, you could put Tua in there maybe too because of how well he looked and didn't get hit. But from what Mac Jones did, and that team looked dead, that game could have been what Dallas did to the Giants quickly. That game started just pretty similar, and Mac Jones clawed their way back, and they had a chance to win this game multiple times at the end of it. And I'm blaming some of his rookie wide receiver, Booty or whatever his name is. I guess that's how we're saying it. I did not realize that's how they said it, but that's what the announcer said. I think that's what Nance and Romo were saying. So, yeah, I think it's a good game, and I think the Patriots come out on top, and I think that makes this division very, very interesting.
Yeah, to me, this feels like a toss-up, and it's, people are like, how the hell are you calling this a toss-up after what we just saw Tua do last week? Look, I'm not the biggest believer in Tua, and again, I'll say it's only from the standpoint of staying healthy. I think he rides that momentum, into this game as well. It's the fuck it, Tyreek's down there somewhere type mantra early in the season, and why not ride that as long as you can? So, I look for the Dolphins offense to explode again. Maybe not to the level that we saw against the Chargers, but I think I'm thinking 30 I think it's still close. Maybe just outside of a one-score game. I'm thinking 30-21 because I do think Miami's defense, it did get exposed a little bit by Justin Herbert, but I mean that offense is still pretty good with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. I don't
Who
think
might not play.
Correct, but I don't think the New England offense is even close to the level of the Chargers. So I got the Miami Dolphins 30-21 in this one.
All right. Well, we both got the over. I went New England, and you went Miami. So
yep, could put a little wager if you want.
Miami. Yeah, you picked Miami to cover the 3 as well.
Yep. There we go. All right. Monday night, we've got Saints at the Panthers, NFC South matchup. Why are you booing? This is your Super Bowl team.
Yeah, this game's going to be a blowout.
You think the Saints are just going to beat the ever-living hell out of them?
Yeah, 24-7.
Just quick into it.
Yep. The Saints' defense looked great last week. Sure, if you want to say it's Ryan Tannehill, that's fine, but this is Bryce Young. He hasn't done anything yet. He barely has anybody to throw it to. He's got a young Mingo, and that's about it. I don't trust the Panthers to do anything. I mean, the over/under in this game is 39.5. They're clearly not expecting the Panthers to score any points. And I think Derek Carr is going to figure it out, and you'll see some explosiveness from the Saints offense. And it may still be 2 weeks away until Kamara gets back, but I mean, with Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed looked
say
also
that 10
great.
times fast.
Yeah, he looked great last week too. Like I think this. I like the Saints team. I've been trying to tell you, I like the Saints team a lot, and I don't think there's any way in how they lose this game.
One of my favorite clips that came out of Week 1 last week was the one that's been going around of Derek Carr mic'd up, and he was talking. I think the offensive coordinator. He's like just give me one more chance. Let me just throw it down there, and they're sitting. I think there's a timeout, and he leans over to Rashid Shaheed, and he goes, Rashid, or sorry, mix the names up again. He goes, Rashid, just run, just go, and then sure enough, he takes off down the field, and Derek Carr just chucks it up to him. They catch it, get in field goal range. So, I don't know why it was one of my favorite clips. It's kind of like just begging the coach. I had a time in Little League football where I had to beg the coach to put me in the game. And I did. The very next play, I made an interception. So, it took me back to my childhood watching Derek Carr do that. So, definitely one of my favorite moments. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be a close one either. Because again, you've got two of my favorite safeties in the NFL right now with Tyrann Mathieu and Marshawn Lattimore on the back end for the Saints there too. So they're just going to make Bryce Young's time a living hell back there. So
it sucks that he's in prime time so quickly in his career, and especially against the Saints defense. I don't trust that this is going to go well.
Yeah, I'm going to go 24-13 is my prediction. I do think, Panthers get, maybe an additional score there or a couple field goals. So
we both took the Saints to cover the 3 and under.
Yeah, 24-2. It's a good number. Got it on my hat tonight. All right, the last primetime game of the week is Browns at the Steelers. Browns, another AFC North matchup. I feel like we've getting already like a lot of. I guess that's just how the year goes, right? You're always going to get divisional matchups.
Yeah.
I don't know why it felt like so early in the year to be doing that, but so Browns at the Steelers. I do look for this to be a bounce back game for the Steelers after just getting mollywopped by the best team in football last week, which was the 49ers. I do think this can be a very close game. And why I've got it in my head, I'm going. This one AFC North games can get always ugly. I feel like especially between these two teams. So I'm going I'm gonna go like a 20-18 victory for the Steelers. I do think the Steelers actually kind of right the ship a little bit, and I know I said Mike Tomlin's 500 win streak was in question, but coming home Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh, something different in the air when that's happening.
I think they win too. I think like 18-16. I think it's a close game. I still don't trust Deshaun Watson yet. We'll see what he ends up doing. Steelers out. No Deontay Johnson. I think that's not going to be good for Kenny Pickett. But I think this is a defensive matchup. It's going to be a boring Monday Night Football with two games that are both going to hit unders. You just got to ride the wave for this week and see what happens going forward. But yeah, I think the Browns, outside of Chubb, I don't really trust much of that offense. And I think Joe Burrow was just so bad last week that it made the defense look good. And I still think I think the Steelers, their defense will be better than what they looked like last week. I don't think that's very indicative of how the team is going to be playing all year long. So I do expect the Steelers to bounce back here too, 18-16 under. So I think we both picked the under. Over 38.5. We have so many games that are over the over-under is under 40 this week. It's insane.
Yeah, a lot of low-scoring games last week. Made Vegas kind of flip the switch a little bit. I think it's bounce back. I expect Kenny Pickett to have a decent game, mitigate the 2 interceptions that he had the previous week. So still think it should be like just a good old nasty football game, even though it's going to be we pick low scoring there. So that'll be the one I think everyone's tuning into. That there's a good chance that Browns or the Panthers Saints game's over in the first quarter.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, back to the 1:00 game on Sunday. We're going to talk Lions Seahawks, setting up to be a favorable matchup for the Lions. I mean, Vegas has them at 5.5, which kind of tells you that they don't know exactly what to do. But it did get announced today that Abe Lucas, the starting tackle for the Seahawks, went on the IR. And then there's a chance that they don't have their other starting tackle as well too. So, with what we saw out of Aiden Hutchinson last week and Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Pascal had a huge stop. I think it's just setting up for, it could be a great defensive day for the Detroit Lions. I know this game last year was super high scoring, and Seattle's always had the Lions number quite a bit, but Ford Field, based on all accounts of what you're seeing on social media, is going to be a madhouse on Sunday. I'll actually be there in attendance, so I'm super fired up about it. CD Deuce has gotten, the fan base to get by the blue ski mask that he's been wearing around and calling themselves villains. So the story that was going around today is it sold out on Amazon within a couple minutes of him.
True. It's maybe one link because I went and searched blue ski mask and you could get a million. It's Amazon. Come on, guys.
Did you get one?
No.
I did think about getting one for Sunday.
When would I ever wear one? It's still 90 degrees here.
You just sit in your apartment and just watch the game down there. Just
not happening.
Just full on support. It's going to be a zoo, and I've actually got to give a shout out to Corey Woods, who I used to work with. He made the comparison for Gardner Johnson as kind of the same mentality of what Rasheed Wallace brought to the Pistons in 2004 when he joined the team. And I did see a lot of reaction to that. A lot of people said that is kind of the perfect analogy for, the energy and the hype that he's brought to this team, and kind of the the ferociousness on that back end. And he hit the nail on the head. I was like, what? That feeling of a player, it's reminded us of somebody, and I couldn't put the two and two together. And then I heard him say Rasheed Wallace. I was like, that is verbatim of what it's like. So hat off for him for making that comparison. Cause everyone loves Rasheed and how vocal he was for that 2004 Pistons team.
I could see that. I like the villain narrative. My only thing is I just don't get why we're considering Lions villains yet.
It was from the brown paper bag. Like, he wanted to switch up the masks. It's like he doesn't want it to be an embarrassing thing. So, villains, kind of the ski mask type mantra of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it all stemmed from.
I think the masks are cool. I just don't get the calling of villains. I just think I don't know. I don't think we're hated by anybody nationally right now. So it just seems weird. But yeah, I like the ski mask idea. I think anything like that's cool. But the villain aspect of it just was like, I don't know about that. But Ford Field should be rocking this week.
Yeah. Even Dan Campbell came out and said he expects it to be louder than Arrowhead, which is, that's shots fired. That's the loudest stadium typically in the entire NFL.
I do have a gripe with Ford Field, though. It's too small. I don't understand why we have NFL stadiums that fit less than 70,000 people in it.
Ooh, you want to go back? Let's go back to the Silverdome days. I think you used to be able to fit 80,000 people in that thing.
Yeah, I just think you should be able to fit close to 80,000, if not 80,000. There's only a few stadiums that do. I find that weird, but I guess that's just kind of how the NFL is. I mean, 'cause it's not the smallest stadium in the league, but it's pretty close to it, Ford Field. But being indoors too, I mean, you should be able to get that place going crazy. And same with, I think it should be loud. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, I think Lions fans are pumped up for the game, as they should be. They're 1-0. And I think they'd be pumped up even if the game just took a little bit of a different turn at the end there and we lost the game by one possession. But there's all the hope in the world for this Lions team. I think they take care of business. Not high on the Seahawks. I think Geno Smith has proved last week that maybe he's got a regression coming. And same with the defense. The defense got chewed to pieces by Matt Stafford without their best receiver. They didn't have anybody to throw the ball to, and they figured out how to destroy them in Seattle. So I'm comfortable taking Lions minus a 5.5, and I'm 28-20. I think this game comes down to.
Okay, I like that. I'm actually pulling up. So for people that don't know, Ford Field does sit 65,000 people, and the Silverdome was just over 80,000, which at the time was the largest stadium in the NFL. So AT&T is the biggest one currently, and it has it can fit 80,000 people in there, but a peak capacity of over 100,000 people you can get in there. So yeah, I mean, I would love it. I know people used to talk about like the way the Silverdome was set up. It used to almost feel like everyone, like the fans were right on top of you. So, let's keep the winning going. Maybe the Fords will either expand, or let's get a new stadium going where you can fit a ton of people. I never realized that was kind of, I know I'm kind of going off tangent here a little bit, but that put it in perspective for me of looking at, the four major sports of seating capacity of, it's like, is football really the biggest? And you go to college football and you get a stadium like the Big House that fits 110,000 people.
Yeah, like
and then
65,000 in college is like a small Power 5 school.
Right. Which is crazy. Like, you would think all NFL stadiums would be even the same size of that to some degree.
I think it's part of being like, I don't know, it's hard to say because I mean the biggest stadiums are AT&T, and there's one other one that's over 80K, and I can't remember what it is. Maybe it's Arrowhead, or SoFi.
U.S. Bank Stadium.
Oh, in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Interesting. So there is another new one that's that big. Okay. Yeah, I think they should be fitting more people into these. I don't know how Ford Field's Blueprints is able to do that if they wanted to. I feel like that'd be a pretty big challenge on how that's set up there.
Just go up, and then put
that would what you would have to do is go up, right?
And then do a glass like retractable dome
with grass.
With grass, there you go. So you can open
that makes sense then.
We're solving issues over here. So
that's gonna cost almost as much as making a new stadium.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably correct, but I will say the concourse at Ford Field is nice. Is beautiful. I argue that it's just like you look at it at the outside, it's like the inside does not match the outside whatsoever. No. So let's redo it and just redo the roof, and then get.
I just want to add 10,000 seats too. It doesn't seem like that much.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like 75. It's not much. We're not asking for much over here.
Yeah. Just add a few suites and like another 2-3 sections.
Yeah, I look for the Lions offense to get back on track. I know you've got some of the best young corners in Seattle, but I look for Jahmyr Gibbs to get used a bit more. I actually expect don't be surprised if we get a big game out of Sam Laporta here too. We saw a lot of good things out of him in week 1. I think we scored how many games last year were over 30 points? I could see this being like a 38-23 type game for the Lions. I think it could be, I think they can kind of start controlling the pace of everything and hopefully bring home an easy victory and kind of show. I think if you go out and win a game like that, especially after you just beat, the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, it's kind of like, backing up the talk, right? So, the Seattle team was a playoff team last year as well, too. So, you go out beginning of the year and beat 2 playoff teams from the prior year, just can continue to hype up everyone around here and the narrative nationally, too. So I look for a big game out of Lions. They're riding that high, and Dan Campbell, I think, is going to have the boys ready to play.
I think so, too. They shouldn't lose this game.
No. If you did, then just like, okay, like you just...
Something went wrong, though.
Yeah,
so what is it? I think is going to be the concern.
Yeah, it would be a hangover from that win in Kansas City. So,
well, hopefully that happened so long ago that no one,
correct.
They don't even care.
Although I've been riding that high since, so I could see.
I forgot they've already played. So,
on to the next one.
Yep.
All right. So what we're gonna do now? We're gonna pick one more game each that kind of piques our interest. Because I am the gentleman that I am. Steady, I'll let you go with your game first because I have a feeling we might be picking the same one.
I have a feeling if we pick the same one, we will both pick the same second one. So, hold on. Let's play a little game here then.
All right.
So you have your first one.
Yep, I guaranteed lock of my first one.
Okay.
Yep, no doubt.
I'm guaranteed I can get this in two. I ask you 2 questions and I can get it after those 2 questions.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Your first game, is it a division game?
Yep.
Okay, it's 49ers Rams.
That was not my first choice.
Ooh, really?
Yep. Okay. It was my second choice.
Oh, that's interesting because the game I was going to pick wasn't 49ers Rams, but I'm fine with you picking a division game.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I know which one it is. It's at 1:00, right?
Yep. Even I won't be able to watch it.
It's played in Ohio.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk about the 49ers Rams since I brought it up. That wouldn't have been my second pick, but
was that your first pick?
No, my first pick would have been Chiefs Jaguars, but I'm fine with 49ers Rams could be interesting too.
All right, so that's good. We had the same three. Those were all three of mine. So we just had them in separate orders.
Yeah. So fuck it. Let's talk about them. I'll do them real quick. Rams, I'm interested to see how the offense does against the 49ers defense. Matthew Stafford looked phenomenal last week. Rams defense also shut down Seahawks on the road in Seattle. So that could be a very interesting game. The line is San Francisco -8. I think that's crazy. I think that's way too high, especially how you're seeing other lines closer to 3 or lower. So that doesn't make sense to me. So I would hammer the Rams, even if they lose this game. I think it's going to be close. They also have this at 44.5, which is one of the higher ones for the week. Seems very weird on how both these defenses shut down the other team last week. I get it was the Seahawks and Steelers, but I mean the Seahawks put up points last year, and I just feel like that's a weirdly high scoring game. I think it's going to be closer to like first one to 20 wins this kind of game, 21-20. I think it's going to be kind of similar to what you saw on the Lions Chiefs home opener, season opener. So I'm going to pick the Rams to win because they're at home. I think it's a close game though, and I just trust on how that offense looked great last week. So, I mean, both these offenses did. I guess that's probably why the over/under is so high, but I think the defenses were just as good. Yeah,
that's kind of where I do think this Niners defense does slow down, Matthew Stafford and those wide receivers with Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua. Yeah, well, that'll take me a few weeks to get down, but I think they do slow down Matthew Stafford and that offense a little bit. Do I think they slow him down to the level of where there's an 8-point difference there? I don't think. I do think there's a chance this is a 1-score game. I'm going to take the 49ers in this one. It's the division rival. They're going to get up a little bit more for it. I got it. I'm going to go Niners 27, Rams 23. So I do think the Rams cover. I don't think the at-home matters that much for LA fans. We've seen that in years past. So, I continue to look for Christian McCaffrey have a big game. And I know Brandon Ayuk had a big game, but look for maybe Deebo Samuel getting mixed in a little bit more. We haven't seen much of Deebo lately.
Yeah, I think he will.
So, all right, let's do all three. Let's do all three since we had them all picked. Let's do the Ravens and Bengals second, and then we'll wrap it up with the Chiefs and the Jaguars. So I think that'll be a great game as well too. So, I think a lot of people are going to be watching this one. It's another AFC North matchup that we have this week, but two, it's all right. Will Joe Burrow actually bounce back? And if he comes out and have another poor game, it's going to be kind of sound the alarms here too, because you can't come out and have 2 horrendous games against 2 division opponents in back-to-back weeks, and especially after becoming the top paid player in the NFL. So, I actually, to be honest, after what we saw, I do like. I don't know. This for me, this is kind of toss up. I'm kind of talking myself into both. J.K. Dobbins going down is big, even though the Ravens really haven't had him that much in the last few years. I do think this is going to be a 1-point game, and it could go one way or the other. I'm gonna go Ravens 21, Bengals 20, and the Ravens win it on a late field goal from Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I think the Ravens win too, and I think it definitely is concern time in Cincinnati, starting 0-2 against division opponents, one being at home, the other one being an in-state rival. Yeah, I have a feeling it's not going to go well. Zay Flowers looked great for Baltimore. If they can figure out, if they can figure out Odell or Rashad Bateman, one of those guys to be a good supplement to him, I think that offense can get going. I'm not super worried about the rushing attack. I mean, they use enough guys, Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, and we'll probably see some Melvin Gordon this week. I think the Ravens being the Ravens and how John Harbaugh runs his offense, the running back position, as long as you got somebody back there that's willing to run through the gap, there's going to be opportunities there. Yeah, maybe it's not as explosive as it would be with J.K. Dobbins, but it's going to be effective enough. And what we saw out of Joe Burrow last week, you have to be concerned. I mean, he was underthrowing every ball last week. I get there was some rain, but I don't think that was enough to be as inaccurate as he was last week. So I do think it's a closer game, 24-22. Still Ravens. I do think they take it home. And I do think that's probably one of the better. I mean, there's 2 1:00 games, and we're talking about the other, and a Lions game that I think are interesting. But I also think the Lions game could be a blowout. So I think that's one of the closer ones that are more interesting, especially for teams that you expect to be in playoff races.
Yeah, agreed. So, unfortunately, I won't be watching that one live because I'll be, like I said, I'll be down at Ford Field rocking.
I'll be in an airport.
Yeah, nice.
Not nice.
All right, last one we're going to talk about Chiefs Jaguars. Chiefs on the road at Jacksonville
as favorites, 3.5-point favorites. Does that surprise you?
No, because I think Travis Kelce will be back and he'll be playing, and it's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, how do you?
I still think that surprises me.
No,
the over/under is the highest of the week at 51.
To me, it
makes me seem like even the Chris Jones coming back, that he may or may not play. I don't. We'll see what he end up doing.
Haven't seen a big enough sample size out of the Jaguars yet, and that's realistically it. If it's a close game with them, they can they can go out there and flip maybe some of the spreads for the rest of the year, but just not enough sample size out of the Jags just yet. I mean, it's not like they had a very convincing win So I was thinking they were playing. I got confused with your damn Saints. So, I mean, it's not like they played. Probably going to playing arguably the worst team in the NFL last week to playing arguably you're playing the defending champion. So I get why the Chiefs are still favored in this one, and I do think the Chiefs bounce back this week. Again, for the sake of argument, you could say the Chiefs should have won last week too. Had Kadarius Toney not dropped a few balls, but that didn't happen. I do look for, I do look for maybe a bigger game out of Sky Moore. Travis Kelce, I do think will be back, because if he's not, then I think you could say that the Jaguars should be favored in this one. So, another close one, but I do think the Chiefs get it done. I'm not going to take the over. I'm going to say maybe it's a little bit more on the low scoring side again. I'm going to go Chiefs 23, Jaguars 20.
Well, we talked about Ford Field being rocking. I think Jacksonville's going to be rocking just as much. I mean, people there are very high on this team too. I'm taking the Jags. I don't know that Kelce plays enough. I think he does play, but I think he's gonna. Things are gonna be watched a little bit more. Even if you start the season 0-2, haven't played anybody in the division. Division doesn't look that strong. Broncos still can't score. Raiders, are you really scared of Jimmy G? I don't think you really are. And the Chargers, it's the Chargers. They always find a way to lose games. So I think Jacksonville, this is a game that they've wanted the whole offseason. They want to see how they can match up against the powerhouse in the AFC. I'm going to pick Jacksonville to win this one close, 30-29. And I like what I saw out of the offense for the Jaguars. I mean, Ridley looks like he didn't miss a step. ETN looked good last week. I think they have it. And you did not see very much of Christian Kirk last week, which that adds another dimension to this offense. And they got Evan Ingram, which I think is an underrated tight end in the league.
I'm
compared
gonna
to
start
some of the
calling.
other guys up there.
I'm gonna start calling you a Jag whore. I think you're kind of a whore for the Jaguars. It seems early in the year.
I like that offense.
I
think
can
that
tell
team's
you kind of
solid.
perk up. You kind of perk up when you're talking about that offense. So you're a dedicated Jag whore.
That might be my favorite offense in the league. I don't know that or the Saints. I like Saints offense a lot.
Well, you got to live and die by your Saints now. So
That's fine. Well, no.
yeah, yeah. Regardless, though, it should be. I feel like we got. Again, I think across the NFL, we'll see better scoring than what we did last week. We'll see better games than how some of those games turned out last week as well, too. So,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, super excited. To see. I mean, there's other games too that we could talk about, but for the sake of time, that there's no need to get lost in all of that. So
this could be the over week if you love overs because there's so many games under 40.
Yeah. Vegas trying to right the ship, so hammer the overs. Offenses are going to start clicking here. Clicking here soon enough. So, all right, Steady. Shifting gears. Not really much to talk about on the college football front besides saying that this is probably the worst college football slate I've ever seen in my entire life. There's not one matchup between a top 25 ranked team going against each other. So.
Yeah,
not
I'm trying
really much.
to think of like who they would have even thought could potentially been ranked. Maybe Florida, that's not ranked, or Michigan State, or South Carolina. I guess that's really the only big Power 5 matchups. Yeah, it doesn't seem like they really did a great job scheduling games this week.
Yeah, and this has always been. I will come out and say this has always been my number one gripe with college football is I would be locked in and more attentive if they didn't have these first couple weeks set up the way it is. And I get the way these teams are doing it now because of the college football playoff.
It's
hopefully going to a 12-team playoff, we get bigger matchups throughout beginning of the year and throughout the season. You're going to need a harder schedule to get into. I think make your case even with a couple losses going forward after it expands to 12 teams. So that's why, and hopefully that does change. Not saying that I hate college football by any means, but I don't, unless you're gambling on some of these games. I mean, what really are you going to, yeah, there's a chance that someone does get upset that you're going to wish you were watching that game. And we're going to do a segment on Wednesdays or Thursdays when the shows come out. We're going to call upset, don't call it an upset segment. And it's we'll pick one team that we think could get upset who's in the top 10, top 15, whatever it may be, whatever game that we think. But yeah, this is kind of my gripe is at least last week we had Texas Alabama as the college football game of the week, and there's not really, unless you're gambling on any of these games, there's nothing really worth watching or at least get you excited about in the meantime.
Well, my alma mater plays my favorite team. Fortunately, I'll be watching it maybe from a phone or I got a wedding Saturday night, so the Bowling Green is at the big house.
Who would you like to win that game there? Steady?
Michigan.
Damn. Be your own people. Be your own people.
So bad. Bowling Green is so bad. It's about winning championships. You got to be on the right side of history.
All right, but would you be mad if Bowling Green won the game though?
Fuck yeah. I'd be pissed.
So this is in fact not a win-win for you. This is a win-lose scenario.
No, yeah, it's Michigan wins and does it great, or no chance. I want Bowling Green to win this. Not even 0.00001%. I want Bowling Green to win this game.
Jesus. Sidebar: Did you have the chance to go to Michigan? Did you apply?
Yeah, we can talk off air on that.
Yeah. Okay. I was curious.
I got waitlisted, but also I never followed through with the waitlist stuff because I committed to Bowling Green. Like I was probably I was probably one of the first people in our class that committed to the school. Like I committed in September because I wanted to make sure I got to
senior
the
year
new dorm. Yeah, I committed early.
Oh no shit! Damn. Okay.
Yeah, I did it because I wanted to make sure I got the brand new dorm that was being built at Bowling Green.
If it makes you feel any better, I signed up for community college, I think 5 days before classes started.
Yeah, I was committed early.
I had different priorities back then. So, If I could go back, I'd go back and do it differently, but can't go back in time, at least
Yeah,
not yet.
I would have. I don't know what I would have done different. I would have went to a bigger school. I would have went to a Power 5 school. It would have been cool saying I went to a school that has a chance to win stuff. And some say Michigan State has that, but they don't.
At the time, though, when you would have been there, they definitely had the chance. You would have been there. You would have been there in the golden era of. They would have won the Rose Bowl when you were there. And at the time, the Rose Bowl was a big deal at the time.
Oh, it don't matter.
And they would have been in a college football playoff, I believe, your senior year.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bowling Green was great at football too. I mean, they spoiled Jordan Lynch at NIU. I went to multiple MAC championship games at Ford Field. That was a blast, and we won both of them. Bowling Green football was good back when I was there.
Back in the day.
And we had a hockey team that competed against Ohio State, Michigan State. So, I mean, that was cool too.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Don't call it an upset. I'll have you start with your game first.
Interesting. I wish I would have known who you were gonna pick. But I'm gonna go Florida at home against Tennessee. Milton hasn't looked great.
Former Michigan man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that he's been he's definitely not close. And I mean, we did our quarterbacks earlier this week. Definitely was not on my radar to be said. Doubt he was on yours either. So I find this to be a weird game. Like looking at highest passing stats, Graham Mertz has thrown for more yards than Joe Milton has. Is that worth something? I don't know. I mean, we're picking upsets of non-ranked teams against a ranked team. So I'm picking number 10 Tennessee at the Swamp to potentially lose this game. I would have liked to pick a top 10 team, but there's only one other one. I think you're picking it. So I'll let you do it just because it's being nice, but I would have picked that one too. This could be a boring week. We might not see any ranked teams go down, and that would kind of suck.
Yeah, I'm picking. I think you probably knew exactly where I was going with this. I was picking Michigan State at home versus Washington, and even amid the Mel Tucker suspension and everything that's surrounding Michigan State right now, the one caveat in the whole light at the end of the tunnel is Mark D'Antonio is going to be there as an associate head coach, which for a program and a guy that we just talked about won a Rose Bowl, made a college football playoff, having a guy like him on the sideline, it could be huge. And this was Washington. Michigan State went on the road last year and lost to Washington when they were ranked, and kind of not saying they ruined their season because Michigan State just had a horrendous season from there on out. But I look for Michigan State to return the favor. I mean, they've had Michael Penix Jr.'s number in the past, and I know Michael Penix is kind of in the talks for the Heisman race, but Washington's got to come all the way here to Michigan State, and I expect the Michigan State fans to show out for the team in general and just show support to all the players and the university. Just through everything that's kind of happened there, it's been it's in a weird way, it's brought the alumni and that community closer together to try to support each other. And, I think this could be just an astronomical win for them, of taking the step forward. And ultimately that if they go out there and get the victory, all that's going to say is like, hey, we don't need Mel Tucker. This is just a step to move on from, that situation that he's put us in. So, could be a big game and just a big storyline in general for college football, at least here in week 3.
So according to the ESPN analytics, they have Michigan State 34% chance to win this game. Would you say it's higher or lower than that, or is that about right?
I would say a touch higher, maybe get up to like 42, 43%. Let's talk specifics here.
Yeah. I think the travel is definitely an underrated aspect of it, especially for college kids.
Correct, yeah.
It'll be an interesting game. I like Washington a lot. I mean, I've talked about the Pac-12 teams a lot because of Colorado talk so far on this podcast. I do find that game intriguing. I figured you were going to pick that one. That's definitely, if not outside of the Florida-Tennessee game, probably the one I would have picked. I think it's worth mentioning a third just because I think this is the only other game that's going to be intriguing a little bit is South Carolina at Georgia. I think especially what we saw Spencer Rattler last week, I think South Carolina can put up points. Can they do it against Georgia's defense? I don't know. And then also I think just seeing Georgia's offense with Carson Beck back there and being able to go against a bigger school, an SEC program, see what he does in his first game like that. I mean, ESPN's given them South Carolina 8% chance to win this game. It's a home game for Georgia too. I would just throw that out there because that could be a game just to keep your eye on, just to see if Georgia can remain the number one team in the nation. Because I mean, if they look bad too, have to win last second or something, you could see a new number one, depending on how Michigan, Florida State, Texas play against their teams that aren't very good. So,
yeah,
it's just maybe worth monitoring because that could be the only other one I think could be interesting.
Yeah. Are you a guy that roots to see an upset every single week in college football?
Yeah, I think it makes it nice. I like seeing upsets.
I think they're especially the time period that we're in for college football. When you go to 12 teams, I don't know if it will matter as much, but the time period that we're in now, I think it matters way more, and it makes it that much more exciting for what's on the line. Because all it takes is one loss to essentially remove yourself from a college football playoff.
Yeah, that's always been I think the argument for the people to keep it at 4-team playoff is that regular season doesn't mean as much. I think it can mean just as much because if you're still not winning your conference and say you have 2 losses in your regular season and you don't win your conference, you might get bumped for one of these other programs that wins like the Big 12 or goes to the championship game and hasn't lost a game. That's their only loss. And they lose to a 1-loss team that ends up winning the championship. So, I think that could still play a factor. And so we've said this slate's pretty bad, but looking at it, all these ranked teams are on the road. That makes things, I guess, a little more interesting. So, just to run through real quickly who's on the road. Florida State's at Boston College. Penn State's at Illinois. LSU's at Mississippi State. Kansas State's at Missouri. Alabama's at South Florida. I don't be concerned there. Oklahoma at Tulsa. Washington at Michigan State. Tennessee at Florida. Just find it. I mean, there's a good handful of games that teams are on the road, and some of those are Power 5 in-conference games too. So you never know. I guess it could end up being one of the better weeks. Unsurprising, maybe. Weeks of college football.
Yeah, we already saw one team go on the road and get upset, and that was Clemson at Duke. So
correct.
Storm the field, baby. Storm the field. It's what we live for on Saturdays.
Which also, I always found that to be an embarrassment for Duke, because they didn't have enough people there for that. Sorry, Duke fans.
Tough scene. So, yeah, that's gonna wrap up everything we've got to talk about. A little bit of a slower Thursday episode or show for you guys, but we still managed to last another hour and a half. So Steady and I can go on tangent. I know. You give us 2 topics, we'll stretch it out to an hour and a half. So no short shows up here in the Nick Leach show. So we enjoy the football this weekend. Enjoy the sports. I'm gonna have a absolute blast at the Lions game on Sunday. Hopefully maybe I come onto the show when we record Monday and release Tuesday. Maybe I won't have a voice. That's how I'll at least did my part in helping the Lions get a victory. So until then, we will see everybody next week.